Top stories. Ministry of Health denying reports on the cause of death of a Filipino nurse. The Nevis Allen administration has been given the green light to host Culturama 47. We hit the streets to hear from people on their thoughts about mandatory vaccination. And the La Soufre volcano erupts again. Hi, I'm Andre Huey and welcome to this edition of the SKN Newsline Newscast on Channel 95. The Ministry of Health is denying information being circulated on social media that a Filipino nurse who worked at the JNF hospital died from blood clots after taking the COVID-19 vaccine. The ministry expressed condolences to the children, particularly Nurse Roseanne De La Cruz and other family members of Nurse Josephine Arcio of the Philippines, on her sudden passing. The release said, quote, Nurse Arcio's untimely passing is poignantly regrettable and contrary to the falsehood being circulated, is entirely unrelated to the administration of COVID-19 vaccine. The misinformation being circulated on social media relative to her demise is therefore extremely unfortunate and sadly is completely devoid of the requisite empathy for someone who has given much in service of her country. The ministry urges the public to respect the Arcio's family and provide the necessary privacy and prayers during this extremely sad and difficult period of grief. The release stated that the demise of Nurse Arcio has intensely affected the entire staff of the Ministry of Health, her nursing colleagues, and the members of the local Filipino community. She worked at the maternity unit of the JNF hospital as a specialty nurse for 4 years. The ministry said it is indebted to Nurse Arcio for the significant role she played as a midwife and the sterling and invaluable service she provided to the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. NEMA officials are working to make a midweek shipment of emergency supplies to the St. Vincent government and people. We hear more in this Glenn Bart report.
As another major eruption blanketed the sky with ash in St. Vincent early today, 13th April, the National Emergency Management Agency on St. Kitts was racing against the clock to have a shipment of urgently needed supplies arrive on St. Vincent. According to NEMA, the response from individuals and the private sector has been good, as donations have been flowing into the agency. Following the St. Kitts and Nevis Prime Minister's announcement of assistance to the government and people of St. Vincent in the wake of the ongoing eruption of the La Soufre volcano, NEMA was tasked with coordinating a shipment of supplies including drinking water, masks, respirators and filters, non-perishable and dry goods items, and personal hygiene kits. It is understood that there is some urgency for this shipment to arrive in St. Vincent by Wednesday. According to the NEMA source, other shipments might be organized depending on express needs. In a recent briefing, Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves had some advice for Vincentians living overseas.
Do not send these 1 or 2 little packages. You're in New York? Get yourself organized with other people so that you can have a good container come in. And we will have the port clear them in a particular manner, and given the fact we reducing the extent of the bureaucracy to get any charges and the like. Because in a disaster, one of the main areas you don't want to be clogged up unnecessarily with too many little things is the port. I just want to say that. And since we have a lot of food in the country through the supermarkets, it is important that you send in. It would be more helpful, in my humble suggestion, send the money for your family that they can buy.
Meanwhile, in a bit of reprieve from ashfall, residents of Barbados began a cleanup on the island, but the international airport remained closed. Glenn Bart reporting for SKN Newsline.
When we come back, we hit the streets to hear from people on their thoughts about mandatory vaccination. Elliots Funeral Parlor is the first licensed embalmer in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. We have a friendly and professional staff. At Elliots Funeral Parlor, we offer a wide range of packages from $6,500, homegoing service at chapel, locally made caskets, tailoring of outfit for deceased of your choice, wake, overnight with slideshow, funeral, death announcement, obituary, booklets, family pin-ons, memorial books, preparation of funeral arrangements, wreath, fresh and artificial, caskets, live streaming, vaults, tombstone, grave marker, international shipping, import and export, mounted oversized ultimate 1,000 pounds body lift, 24 hours removal and transportation services, walk-in refrigerator unit for temperature-controlled body storage, prep room with embalming station, and an assortment of embalming fluids and accessories, a mortician, cosmetologist, or restorative makeup artist. For further information, call 469-3298, 664-2007, or 660-0186. Elliots Funeral Parlor in Gingerland, Nevis, dedicated to those we serve. Football is back, and the St. Kitts and Nevis Football Association will be bringing you live football on its website, www.sknfa.com, with Premier League Live. Without fans in the stadium due to COVID-19 protocols, you can now watch every single Premier League match this season on www.sknfa.com and click on Live TV. Games are shown live on every match day with halftime and post-game shows. It's Premier League Live. Commentary, analysis, action. Never miss a game. Auto Plus Car Wash, located on the College Street Gut, Bastyr, St. Kitts. Bring your car to Auto Plus Car Wash to remove water stains, wiper marks. Get your doors, roof panel cleaned, seat floor mats, buffing, headlights, and engine wash. You get quality service at the best price at Auto Plus Car Wash. They really care for your car. Call 765-5140 or visit them on the College Street Gut, Bastyr, St. Kitts. Auto Plus Car Wash, where the service is number one. Welcome back. The comments of Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris suggesting that the government could look at mandatory vaccination against COVID-19 have not sit well with some people. SK Newsline took to the streets to get the views of persons on the issue. Glenn Bart filed this report.
In this era of the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, many persons are concerned about taking a vaccine, any one of the vaccines. On St. Kitts and Nevis, we hear varied opinions as to why they would not take the vaccine, or even why they would take the vaccine. The question is it a matter of trust, or is it a matter of information? SKN Newsline took to the streets recently to talk with people about taking the vaccine, and here is what they had to say.
I personally believe that it's not a problem taking the vaccine, right? Now, if you know your health status and stuff like that, and that functional, you understand? Then you go and check your doctor, and then your doctor will sort it for you. Well, then if you could take your vaccine, or if not, like for instance, me, I suffer with varicose veins. I'm not gonna just jump into the vaccine and be sure about the reaction with my veins. You understand? But I don't have a problem with it. People saying a lot of nonsense, but I believe if you in the future to come, I mightn't see it, you mightn't see it. If the majority of people doesn't really go and take the vaccine, what's going to happen to the next generation? Which it could be your grandchildren or your children, you understand? So all of them things that we have to look at. And we also have to look at, as a man to go to England. I don't go to England, right? With my children and stuff up over there. So could I leave from here and go to England just to hear this crisis? No. So in order to see them anytime today, tomorrow, I have to go over there. They have to come over here. I won't have a choice. But for now, I will prefer to ask my doctor if I qualify to take, you know, and stuff like that. But I personally, I believe the Prime Minister himself, he did a wonderful job. He did a good job. It's not nothing political, but he did a good job. By holding things down. A lot of cases passed to us. But how many deaths? 0. You see, so we still have to give thanks still. Powers to the leaders still, you know. Yeah man, peace.
So, okay, my view about what the Prime Minister stated about the vaccine and making it mandatory for us to take it. The negative on it is that this is a democratic country. We are free to do what we want. We have, we should have freedom of speech, and it's limiting you to express yourself. It's limiting you to even taking you back to slavery days. So you have to do what the master said, right? So that, and there's a lot of fear factors behind it. A lot of people are scared about taking it, of all the repercussions, of all the side effects and different things. And so that is my negative take on it. Positive side about it is now, for me, is that my body would not react to it as somebody else's body is. So when some people are saying this happening to them, that might sometimes it is just like a fear factor, because we don't put this mentality in our mind. So automatically when you take it, something gonna happen, because we don't expect something to happen. So it's not necessarily that it's gonna happen. When we were younger, when we were children, we took vaccines all the time. And we had different side effects because it's a foreign body going into our body. So it's gonna give us side effects, but that does not say that it's gonna affect us in the long term or make us sick or anything. So I think we should really go out and do it. Another thing too, for businesses, it's gonna help to open up the country for tourism to start again. And a lot of us suffering because tourism is the biggest money making vehicle on the island, and a lot of us are not getting that done because of the shutdown and COVID and everything. So if we really step up and go out and take the vaccine, make the 70% in the country take it, so the country will open back up and finances can be running through the country a bit freer again. Businesses can open, the taxi drivers could get back to their daily runnings. The certain vendors at Port Zante could get back to their daily run to get back their money and things like that. So that's a positive take on it, and I think yes, that we should all go and take the vaccine.
Well, my name is Robert Stevens. I'm one of the only white boys on this island right now. I'm from the Virgin Islands, okay? But I never took the flu vaccine because I'm healthy. And 80% of the people that die from COVID are obese. You come down here, you eat local food, eat local fish, sleep well, no vaccine. You don't need a vaccine. Who knows the long-term effect of that? But I think it's the best thing you can do for the world, because when you get past the mob immunity, we all good. But guess what? I was never a member of a mob.
No, you can't say. Give me no money. Hello?
I don't believe in this vaccine, and they should not make it mandatory. If it's your choice, all of us are adults. We're supposed to make a decision, and nobody's supposed to come and say, you must do this, you must do that, because we have our own opinion. Suppose we are, it's something religious, you're gonna force it on us? No. And these vaccine thing, what they're putting in everybody, it's a time span they have on us, And I ain't taking no foreign bodies and putting it in my body to reorganize the chromosomes in my body and reorganize the DNA cells in my body. Let it test it out on somebody else, maybe a monkey or a dog or a rat or something. Not on me human, not on me human body.
As you can see, opinions are varied, but somewhere along the line it seems to me that information needs to be passed on to persons who really need it. People who are subject to misinformation and disinformation. There could be a challenge for medical and policymakers in the not too distant future, but we'll have to wait and see what really happens. This is Glenn Barrett reporting for SK Newsline.
The Nevis Island administration has been given the green light to host Culturama 47, so disclosed Antonio Abonati-Liburd, the executive director of the Culturama Secretariat, in a press release issued by the Nevis Island administration on Tuesday. Mr. Liburd said, following several consultations with the Nevis COVID-19 Task Force and Mr. Hilroy Brandy, Commissioner of Police, approval was given on April 12th to host a contracted version of the annual summer festival. Mr. Liburd explained that while there would be several of the traditional events, venues have been changed and the number of patrons allowed to attend will be limited. He outlined how the local public in St. Kitts and Nevis and overseas can still participate in the festival. We have not been given permission to have a full-scale Culturama where we can have the cultural complex filled with persons. The present SR&O mandates that large events can only accommodate 150 persons and that 150 is not paid patrons. It would indicate technicians, contestants, committee members, etc. So we may be looking at about 80 to 100 paying patrons. He stressed that all events will be hosted in a COVID-19 compliant environment and the committee will be adhering to all of the established protocols. Some of the events for Culturama 47 include the Senior Calypso Monarch Competition, Soca Monarch Competition, Mr. Cool and Miss Culture Swimwear. In the absence of street activities such as Juve and Beret Day, Mr. Liburd said the Secretariat will host a virtual Jam Where You Are Juve on August Monday. No fetes will be permitted during the festival. The director said more details about the activities for Culturama 47 will be rolled out in the coming days.
The SKN Newsline website now offers you more news. Log on to www.sknnewsline.com for local, regional, and international news. You can also watch the latest newscast and keep abreast with news in sports, all from sknnewsline.com. That's www.sknnewsline.com. News at your fingertips.
Stay abreast with news on St. Martin with SMN News. Visit www.smn-news.com for up-to-date news, scoops, opinions, and hard-hitting facts. SMN News, we tell it like it is. Visit our website www.smn-news.com.
It's the new and improved SKN Newsline Android mobile app. With the SKN Newsline app, you can watch your news reports, the SKN Newsline Newscast, sports, special features, and so much more. You can also send us a WhatsApp or call us directly. Go in the Google Play Store, search SKN Newsline, and download the app today. The SKN Newsline mobile app. News on the go. Welcome back. We turn our attentions now to regional news. Authorities in St. Vincent and the Grenadines are urging persons who are still in the danger zones of the La Soufre volcano to leave. The volcano erupted again on Tuesday morning, following the predictions of the experts from the UE Seismic Center. A resident spoke to BT in Canada Tuesday. Here's an excerpt from that interview.
Tell us what they are seeing. So Cuthbert Tucker has been kind enough to join us. His power is okay, and he's joining us live right now on Breakfast Television. Cuthbert, thank you for joining us today. Appreciate it.
And good morning, I'm welcome. Thanks for having me on this show.
Cuthbert, tell us what it's like living there right now. I know you're in the south part of the island, so you're not evacuated yet. So what have you been told to do at this point? It's been 40 years since we've seen this volcano erupt, right?
That is correct. Today's actually 42nd anniversary since it last erupted. This morning around 6:40, it had another big eruption, which I find since it erupted on Friday the 9th, which was the largest of them all. From the south end, you can literally see the volcano is over 20 miles away from us, and we see it perfectly clear. In terms of devastation, most of the northern end of the island seems to be devastated. Into villages like Sandy Bay, they are basically covered with ash. The roads are impassable. Some residents decide to stay up there. The conditions are very horrible. The streets, they're basically full of ash. Everywhere you go, it looks white, literally white. The water supply right about now is very low. The water authority is trying to ration water, and in some cases where people cannot get pipe-borne water, you literally have to take trucks and deliver water to residents.
And Cuthbert, this is during a pandemic, so not only are you all dealing with COVID-19, dengue fever, and now this. I imagine anybody who lives near a volcano, you're constantly literally looking over your shoulder, thinking one day, and now it's here. So what is your plan, and what are you hoping for? Are you in desperate need for basic supplies right now? What's the plan in terms of evacuation? And what does it look like outside your window right now? I know you should be staying inside where it's safe, but what does it look like for you right now?
This morning when I woke up, it was very bright and sunny, but after the explosion, it became a bit dark. Like, you know, like after 5 in the afternoon, how it looked gloomy, like the sun is about to set. That's how it's looking at this point in time.
So your situation specifically, Cuthbert, you're going to ride this out for a bit. How concerned are you?
To be honest, I'm not that much concerned. The problem is the ash that is really affecting us in terms of breathing.
In a related story, ashfall affected business operators in Barbados on Monday, but some opened on Tuesday and are being encouraged to stay open by the Chamber of Commerce. More in this Barbados Today report.
A number of businesses have been given the green light to open today as the island enters its second day of cleaning ash from the last over volcano in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Minister of Home Affairs, Information and Public Affairs Wilfred Abrams announced last night that shops, supermarkets, bakeries, gas stations, pharmacies and hardware stores would be allowed to reopen. Polyclinics, the airport and the Bridgetown port will remain closed, and transport services will continue at reduced capacity. However, the minister said those plans were subject to change depending on the prevalence of ash from the volcano.
This is not a one-day thing. We are going to have to clean a lot of the government facilities to try to get as much business open back as possible. We don't want to put people into situations where it's hazardous to their health. So we have to clean to a certain standard before we can invite people back into the building. And this is once again conditional on exactly where it is that you work and whether it's air conditioned or not. We're looking to open departments that serve the public on Wednesday and all other departments on Thursday. So tomorrow it is essential services, as well as what I listed: shops, supermarkets, bakeries, hardware store, pharmacies. Practically, if you are, let me not say that, shops, supermarkets, bakeries, hardware stores, and pharmacies. On Wednesday, we are trying as best we can to get the sectors of the public service that serve the public open on Wednesday, and all other departments we're aiming to be open on Thursday. There is a caveat. This is subject to conditions at any given time. Remember, we get 90 minutes warning. So while we may have indicated that things should open or things are allowed to open, when we get that warning, we will try to advise you as early as possible as to what it is looking like. So this is what we are aiming at.
Meantime, Director of the University of the West Indies Seismic Research Center, Professor Richard Robertson, said residents may experience reduced ashfall in the coming days.
This period could vary from a few weeks to a few months to as long as up to a year, given past experience. So in terms of what you would expect in the coming weeks, it's possible in this week, given that it seems to be trending towards smaller, shorter, less vigorous plumes, that you may not have periods of so much ash. But that is not to say that in the coming weeks, because it's continuing its explosive eruptive activity, that you would not again have periods where you have ash fall. They may or may not be as intense as you had them in the past. Hopefully, for your sake, for all our sakes, this volcano goes back to sleep as quickly as possible. But there's no indication currently that it is heading in that direction. It seems to us that it will continue with this episodic behavior, that we may enter a period of longer quiet, but that at some point it's going to pick up again and then it's gonna pick up such that you have these very high altitude plumes that could generate ash. So in closing, I'll leave you with the thought, which I know you would not like to hear, but it's a reality, that as long as Las Soufrière is erupting, Barbadians have to expect that at some point in time, at some times during the explosive eruptive periods, that you will have ash.
The uncertainty surrounding eruptions at the La Soufrière volcano is having an impact on businesses in Barbados. The vast majority of non-essential enterprises remain closed for a second day today as residents continue cleaning the volcanic ash. President of the Barbados Private Sector Association, Edward Clark, said, given the unpredictability, businesses must remain open, given that some only recently reopened their doors to the public.
The economy is an open economy. We have to make sure that businesses remain open.
Internationally, the U.S. is recommending a pause in the administration of the single-dose Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine to investigate reports of potentially dangerous blood clots. More from Al Jazeera.
The Food and Drug Administration has stressed that this is a precautionary move, but also in the past few minutes, the company has announced it will delay its rollout in Europe. Well, we'll be speaking to Stephanie Decker in Berlin to get more on that in just a moment. But first, let's speak to our White House correspondent, Kimberly Halkett, in Washington, D.C. Now, Kimberly, the government there has already been struggling to deal with vaccine hesitancy. I don't imagine this whole Johnson & Johnson situation is going to help much with that.
Well, the White House has just released a statement saying that they believe that the pause in the Johnson & Johnson vaccine being administered in the United States that has been recommended by the CDC as well as the Food and Drug Administration won't have a significant impact on the overall vaccination campaign. To put it into context, the White House saying that the Johnson & Johnson vaccine made up just 5% of the vaccines being administered. The majority of vaccines being administered in the United States are made by the drug companies Pfizer as well as Moderna. Now, the White House saying just moments ago that the Pfizer and Moderna doses, that they have secured enough to administer 300 million Americans shots. So they do believe that they will remain on track for the revamped goal of 200 million shots administered by 100 days in the Biden administration's first days in office. So there is still a sound of optimism despite this, what is being viewed as a setback for the global vaccination effort and also the effort in the United States. The concern being that while it is a small number, that the effects of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine that could cause potentially a very serious blood clotting disorder. In other words, what they call a thrombotic event or CVST. Now, what we know is this has happened primarily to women between the ages of 18 and 48, but less than a dozen cases. Still, out of an abundance of caution, this is being reviewed by the Centers for Disease Control on Wednesday, and the recommendations made by that body will be presented to the Food and Drug Administration. But again, out of abundance of caution, this is being paused. But the White House saying this will not have a dramatic effect on the vaccination effort in the United States.
Kimberly Halkett there, our White House correspondent with all the latest. Thanks so much, Kimberly. Well, let's now go over to Europe and speak to Stephanie Decker in Berlin. Steph, over there, first AstraZeneca and now Johnson & Johnson. Another setback for the continent's vaccine rollout?
Absolutely. I mean, across Europe, the vaccination rollout has been sluggish in some areas, a little faster in others. But certainly when it comes here in Germany, it was a slow start. Certainly, they were expecting the Johnson & Johnson vaccine to arrive here mid to late April. Europe has actually bought around 2 million doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine to be distributed among its member states. So there hasn't been any official reaction so far, but certainly just from reading between the lines, of course, this is going to dent what has already been a sort of slow vaccination campaign. What's better about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, so to speak, in terms of time, is you only need 1 doses, whereas the Pfizer vaccine, the biotech Pfizer and the Moderna one need 2 doses administered from a couple of weeks from each other. It's also easier to store. It can be stored in a normal refrigerator for up to 3 months. So these are the things that make it more of a let's say, attractive vaccine when you're trying to get your population vaccinated in a fast amount of time. And certainly we were talking to the head of the medical practitioners here earlier today, and he was saying one of the key issues was the fact that they were lacking vaccines, and they needed to get more vaccines into the country to be able to vaccinate people at a quicker pace to keep up with what is now a third wave here in Germany. So certainly this news that, fine, out of abundance of caution, Johnson & Johnson is stopping its deliveries, but it's only going to slow the vaccination campaign even more.
And Steph, you mentioned that third wave happening now in Germany. The country is also now trying to centralize its pandemic response there. How is that all going over?
Yes, this is basically because the German Chancellor Angela Merkel has been frustrated. She's been trying to impose stricter lockdowns. She's been talking to the 16 heads of the regions in Germany, and what's happened over the last couple of weeks is that they've been implemented to varying different effects across the country, regardless, let's say, of some areas of increasing numbers. And we've had warnings from different medical heads and voices and even politicians over the last couple of weeks that if stricter lockdowns do not get implemented, that the third wave of this pandemic will increase, that hospitals will get overcapacitated, that ICU beds will get filled. So this is the concern. So what they've done now is they have passed through the cabinet legislation which would give the central government absolute power to impose these lockdowns on the different states. It still needs to pass through Parliament, but if that passes, and we're looking at that potentially later in the week, but it needs 2/3, then the central government can impose things like nighttime curfews from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. It can close schools if the numbers go up to a certain extent. It can impose that only families from one family can only see one person from another family a day. I think it's very difficult to impose, but these are sort of the measures that they're looking at.
Stephanie Decker there across all that for us from Berlin. Thank you so much, Steph.
On to news in sports. President of the St. Kitts Nevis Tennis Association, Watkis Shiverton, has described the just concluded Easter Junior Tennis Camp as a success and is looking forward to having more young people learn the sport throughout the year. The one-week camp, which closed over the weekend, saw more than 40 children in all age categories, divided into 2 sessions, one in the morning and the other in the afternoon.
Say that we had a wonderful close to an awesome week of camp. The camp just finished. Just this afternoon. In terms of the number of children who were registered, we had, for the morning session, more than 40 children between the ages of 11 and under. And in the afternoon session, we had 20 plus with the ages of 12 and over.
Shiverton gave an insight into the training at the camp's sessions.
The children were engaged in some really good play in the skill development, forehands, backhands, rallying, scoring, understanding the parts of the equipment as well as the understanding the layout as well as the court itself in general. We had children from a wide cross spectrum of the territories in St. Kitts, as far as Sandy Point in Keon, Frigate Bay, the vicinity in Bass there. It was really good. We were able to each day showcase the basic skills of the game as well as teach them a means of understanding scoring and understanding playing from an intelligent perspective.
This was the first camp held during the Easter period for the St. Kitts Nevis Tennis Association, and President Shiverton said the feedback from the camp speaks volumes for the national junior tournament slated for later this year.
This year it was a special mark for us, given that it was our first Easter camp, and we want to continue that tide of the interest with the parents and the children going forward, so that we can build for something which we want to showcase in the very first ever junior national championship. So it's a step in that direction, and one in which we think we will yield the results come June, July, as well as in October.
On On to news in cricket. Ricky Skerritt and Dr. Kishore Shallow have been re-elected unopposed to the posts of President and Vice President, respectively, of Cricket West Indies. They will serve a second two-year term. The re-election process was conducted as one of the key items on the agenda of the 22nd General Meeting of Cricket West Indies on Sunday. Mr. Skerritt said in a statement that he's humbled and honoured to be re-elected to serve as Cricket West Indies President for a second term. He says he'll take the responsibility to lead the board most seriously. We have much unfinished work to do, and we renew our pledge to work untiringly to help achieve sustainable improvement both on and off the field for West Indies cricket, Skerritt said in the statement. This has been the SKN Newsline Newscast on Channel 95. If you want more on these stories, you can visit our website at www.sknnewsline.com. From all of us here at SK Newsline, I'm Andre Huey. Thank you for watching.